No, the budget's already done. So they're going to do a 5-minute recess, and then they'll probably go into public comment because they did it backwards. They brought the budget part up, so now they'll go back and do the other part. And that's exactly my point when I stood up there and I said, you're forcing them to give you the money, and this is how the commissioner's office does it every single time. Well, that's the thing. Just get up there, and all you can do is point it out and speak. Here's the thing. I charge you for listening.
I just didn't go home. Yeah, I mean, we're working on 100% better.
I want to
Good.
The other day, when I was here with the book, yeah. What did he say to me back there? What did he say to the staff?
They came out today and mowed the ditches.
Yeah. Oh.
They haven't cleaned up the culverts yet. That's when I talked to him. Now, I'm here in the part of that ditch too.
There needs to be a bridge out there. There used to be a bridge years ago. And we talked to Jessica Baston on the phone. She called us back after we talked to Rich Wine the same day. And she said basically the culverts are there for 50 years. Well, it's been 45 years, so we're only 5 years out if they're destructive.
All right.
So I don't know if she seems pretty well this culvert. And we want a bridge. She said, well, bridges are, you know. And I asked her, I said, when does the culverts put in? She's got to go back and check the files. And I still don't have the paper. Email. I gave her my email.
You said something like when you were to get paper. I have yet. They will not give me a paper to save my ass.
FOIA is it's federal information. Federal information.
Right?
FOIA, it's federal freedom of that'll and you can go online. No, you can go on. Yeah, you can go to. Should be able to get it from the city, like county. Yeah. And then you just ask them what you want, and they have to make it.
You should be able to take a piece of paper. I request this information. I request this information. Right. Every public office. Yeah. Oh yeah. They don't want us to know that. Oh yeah. It's all public information.
Yeah.
They want to hide something and they make it difficult. But you can take a handwritten note and say, I request this information there required by law to provide.
See, I had asked for the water reports for Alexandria, and I requested them, and they still have not. They said
They have a limited time to respond too.
Yeah.
They're supposed to do it in 3 days or 5 days or maybe 7 days, business days. But yeah, they just put her off. They don't They're pushing her up.
Hey folks, if you want to go ahead and have a seat, we're gonna get started here just in the next 30 seconds.
What? Huh?
You did a good job, Madison. I don't know. I don't think that it's a problem. I'm talking three. And
All right, folks, we're going to jump back in. Next on the agenda is public hearing item on the general fund county council. Last month, Vice President Norris brought to our attention an opportunity to do an assessment of the impact of the new law with regard to property tax and the impact for Madison County. So, would you share that with us and have a discussion?
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna read the scope of services if we decide to retain Greedy Financial Group. The reason I actually even looked into it is because I think the council has to have a good understanding of the financial impact it's gonna have on the county and what it's gonna look like for us, come 28. And I'm not an accountant and don't claim to be, so I can run numbers and I think I'm come pretty close, but this company does this is what they do. They've done it for numerous communities. And I think it'll give the council a really good understanding of what we need to do within the next couple of years in order to get our budget where it needs to be. So the scope of services, the Indiana General Assembly in 25 session, they Senate Enrolled Act 1 impact analysis. The company shall analyze individual tax bills for every parcel for all tax districts wherein the county has taxing authority. RFG shall use in-house methodology, that's a hard word for me, to project impacts through 2033, which is in 8 years of impact, under the old current property taxation and local income taxation system. The project impacts through 2033, which is again an 8-year impact, under the current vision of SE1, accounting for all changes to property taxation and local income taxation. They will prepare a year-by-year comparative analysis of both systems to capture the phase-in impact of SE1, which shall include, but not be limited to, net assessed value, property deductions, new property tax credits under SEA1, property tax rates, property tax levies, breakdown of shares of total property tax and circuit breaker credits by property class 1, 2, and 3%. Local income tax will include the county's projected share of all optional lit rates subject to the Madison County Council's decision. Note, unless otherwise directed, RFG shall use the 5-year average gross assessed value trend, rounding to the nearest whole dollar to project future gross assessed values. Prepare an executive presentation which shall detail RFG's methodologies, I don't know why I have a hard time with that word, assumptions and model limitations. Furthermore, RFG shall provide detailed breakdowns of each aspect contained within the comparative analysis as detailed in point number 3, which was talking about the different things that affect property taxes. RFG shall meet with the county upon their signing of the formal engagement to discuss basic impact models, assumptions, and anticipated timelines. And RFG shall meet with the county to discuss the findings within the executive presentation to be determined by the county and RFG. The total cost of the service is $15,000. If it goes over that, that's the cap of what we will be paid or charged. If it's underneath that 15,000, we would only pay what the amount is based upon the hourly rate. There's a lot more to the contract, but it's a lot of legalities. And you guys are willing to look at it, but it doesn't have to really do with what they're doing for us, if that makes sense.
An understanding of what service is provided and what the opportunity.
So Jody, is this gonna be, are they gonna calculate it for next year or for, like, is this, you see what I'm saying? Like, is it gonna give us what the impact is
No,
gonna be
it won't
for
help us
next
this
year?
year.
Or the following
No.
year, or in 2028 when
Yeah, in
when
2027.
it's fully in effect?
It's too
They're
late for
gonna
this year.
do from now through 33, which is 8 years. They're gonna
So they're
do the
gonna do it just
projection
that
for
year by year?
each year through year 33. Yes.
Okay. Because I suspect we'll see some changes to this in the next legislative session.
Actually, they're in session, they had an extra session that they're actually discussing it currently. So, it's gonna change, but it'll give us a snapshot of today.
Would they update it once things have changed out of the general assembly?
I'd have to ask them, but I believe that they would update it, yes. And if there's a cost to that, I don't know, or if it's just a matter of just, implementing different things into their calculation of what they do.
I'm
I
just
would say,
curious,
I
it
would
was-
say that the property analysis should not change a whole lot. There might be a percentage change or something like that, I would think, but I don't know that it would.
That's why I didn't know if it'd behoove us to wait until after
Yes.
this next session ends to begin this, so we have a better idea of what it's gonna look like. I don't
So
know.
you're talking waiting till after next year's
I'm
session?
just thinking out loud. I don't know.
I agree with
like
this.
what kind of changes might be coming. Does it serve us well to spend the money when we know it's gonna change?
I know that if we'd have known our budget shortfall in March versus
You know, your shortfall now, you still appropriate $1 million.
August here, would have made a big difference. Well, maybe we could have done a lot more. Sooner we can know what we're up against for next year. And the model should predict what Todd came up, or what the DLGF came up with on rates, and hopefully they match or come close.
And I've run some speculation numbers, I've shared that with President Green, but like I said, my disclaimer is I am not an accountant, but it's based upon some of the lit numbers we have coming in now that, that are numbers that, cover the entire county that we're just seeing the benefit of, not like the public safety that's divided between, municipalities. Just to kind of, project what I think and where we're gonna be, come 28. And the big factor that I can't predict is what they're gonna do with property taxes. Are they gonna eliminate it altogether? I don't think so. Are they gonna reduce it by 50%? Possibly. And how that will impact our budget. Because that is a large percentage of our revenue is through property tax.
To Christie's point, sorry, Councilor Borowski's point, it seems to me that the value would be present only insofar as the information would be detailed and evolved with the evolving information. If it's a static snapshot today for 7 years, where it may change 5 times in that period of time, it's not. But if it's information where part of the deal is they maintain an up-to-date assessment of the impact specifically, it makes sense to me that the best decisions are going to be made, hopefully, in the setting of the best information.
What's the time frame for the, once they're engaged, for the result? Did it,
They said it would take approximate, I know that they would have to meet with department heads, so once our department heads are cooperative and give them the information that they need, they say it would take about 2 weeks to gather all the data. I don't know that I wrote down, I don't know why, but I'm thinking in my back of my head, it was like a month to get it all finished from the time we would meet with them, go over the process with them. But I can call him or email him to ask 2 questions. One, well, I can answer them 2 quick. One, the time frame, and 2, is this going to evolve as legislation changes? Will we need modifications to it? And if so, is there a cost to that, or would that be underneath the local pay?
Our payment and hours would be up to that 15,000.
Yes.
So that would make you think that it would be one time, and then there'd be an additional hourly fee if you wanted to update it.
I don't want to assume anything,
Right.
Bethany.
That's what it, yeah, that's how I would read it,
Yes.
but I would want you to find out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if we wait another a month, it's not the end of the world, because honestly, I don't see how we can possibly pay this from the general fund anyways. It needs to come from the rainy day. Was not advertised that way.
The intention was to put this under the rainy day fund, but it came out under the general fund. And the other dynamic at play is this designed to impact our discussion with regard to the budget this year for next year? And the time frame,
No. The waiting a month seems prudent.
To wait.
I mean, I'm fine waiting. It sounds like waiting a month is not, it's not critical.
sounds like we need the information.
Couple little bits, and that's it.
Can take this up at the next.
The dynamic or ability to change the variables to get further outputs beneficial, especially if they have special sessions or they tweak things in March or April. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to get a hold of them and ask those 2 questions. Is there anything else?
No.
Okay. Next is salary ordinance. This is salary ordinance 2025-9C related to Family Recovery Court 9177.
Now this is a grant, correct?
Yeah, that's,
Yes,
yes,
for
that's,
it to be a grant.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, this is from the transfer of the grant that was approved earlier
Yes.
This evening. So if
This
you have
is
any
a
questions?
consequence of our decision earlier, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just wanna make sure our perk and our
Oh.
FICA weren't going to go up again. I'm probably gonna ask that every salary
One
ordinance
count
now.
on you for that question, so. Yeah, any other questions? All right, roll call?
Counselor Steele?
Yes.
Counselor Holt?
Yes.
Counselor Ligon?
Yes.
Counselor Grabowski?
Yes.
Counselor Keller? Yes. Vice President North?
Yes.
President Green?
Yes. Thank you. The next is the salary ordinance. Yeah, here it is. Sorry. Salary ordinance 2025-9D, General Fund 1000. Questions? Todd, at least these are total numbers. Any other questions? Roll call?
Counselor Steele?
Yes.
Counselor Holt?
Yes.
Counselor Ligon?
Yes.
Counselor Grabowski?
Yes.
Counselor Keller? Vice President Nort,
Yes.
President Green.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, it's time for public comment.
I got plenty to say about
this. Anyone who wants to step to the mic, for your name and address.
Catherine Callahan, LaPel, Indiana. I want everybody in this room to now pay attention. You now get to see a clear picture of wants versus needs. When convenient, you can dip into the rainy day fund, but when we have a need like public safety, it's off the table. The $15,000 that is being requested should be worked into your budget, just like other departments are asked to do the same. And it should wait until January, since there is no benefit for this budget. It would also buy us an extra year being more fiscally responsible. With new money for the council asking $15,000 to do a budget, but we can't get $20,000 for our surveyor. You have a surveyor trying to do his job who actually goes out, is with people. You see him all the time running around with his head cut off, goes above and beyond. And what's he do? He has to come up here, beg for money, only to be turned down. And then he has to be told, find somewhere to transfer that from. But we don't do that to other departments. This is a problem. If you want these people to respect you, then you should have to transfer money or put it in a budget just like they have to. So there's some big problems here, and what you've shown these officers tonight, I am glad that Todd made it clear tonight and Dr. Green agreed that money that was appropriated tonight is just the price of doing business. It's just the price of having overtime. It's just the price of having extra employees. So the next time Sheriff Beeman comes to this podium and wants overtime money, just the price of them keeping us safe. Just the price of doing business. These men and women are here tonight, giving up their time with their families to make sure they can get paid. So I hope you remember that, because these double standards that continue to go around in this county is just off the chain. The council has cut the budget on numerous departments. You have just made it clear that if they deplete a line item that it is required, they can force your hand and you will approve it. Tonight you have shown the county that you can be bullied into appropriations and have zero control over the departments and their spending. Only one member of this council refuses to allow departments to bully. Maybe all of you need to learn from her example, and you need to start taking public safety a little bit more serious. The other reason why this $15,000 should not go through tonight or next month, and it should wait until January. You have an auditor, you have a treasurer, you have all you guys. I would think all of you guys would have the brains to put this all together. Certainly, most of you have college degrees. So that would save us, the taxpayers, money, and you'd learn a lot more from it. So I'm not sure why you even need it. Do I think it's a great idea? Yeah, but I think that it's money that we can save and you guys can figure this out. But the other real reason why you probably should wait till January to implement this, I don't know how many of these guys are going to be there in January, so it'd be a moot point, because you may have to really redo something.
Anyone else?
After listening to, yeah, I'm still learning light, just like I was last time. After listening to the council meeting and going through all the appropriation items, I now have a brand new concern about the budget. It appears that last year, the council made a budget that specifically, on purpose, underfunded departments.
Yep.
I don't know why. So they could look good, so they could come into a number that they wanted to come into, knowing that they were going to have to give money to these people throughout the year, knowing that these people did not have enough money. Why?
Lisa Summers, Alexandria. I find it interesting that I think only one of you live out in the county and the rest of you live in a city or a town. And so if you needed an officer,
you wouldn't need one of the sheriffs. You would have one of the city or town officers to come to your home if you were in trouble, if you needed help. And so, is that why the majority of you won't fund these officers? Because it doesn't affect you? Is that why? Because these people do everything in their power to make sure that we're saved. Period.
So Nicole Kapuscinski again, Spring Hill Road, Anderson. And I have another concern about public safety. Like, we know these guys and what you guys are going to talk about them, but there's another issue that we're having locally, or actually countywide, involving contaminated water, E. coli, in our rivers and creeks. And dirty tap water to the point where a lot of it's brown and they're blaming it on the hydrants and all these different issues. Well, my husband got sick this summer because it was either our water, because it turned brown, and within 48 hours, he was sick. He was also in the White River. So I just learned this weekend that the Chesterfield wastewater treatment plant was 930% above action level for E. coli in the White River. Okay, we're downriver from Chesterfield wastewater treatment plant. And so I have a feeling that he got sick from playing in the White River, and we're not getting warnings about our outdoor recreation being contaminated from things like the wastewater treatment plant or the combined sewage outfalls. Alexandria had another issue where the baby got sick, and the government has been being mean to the mom and trying to make her look stupid, and they've tried to make us look stupid for bringing it up to them. But their environment was contaminated in, April after the flooding, the drainage issue there. I think the auto place had floating poop and toilet paper in the parking lot right next to where that baby was. And nobody went and tested that baby's tap water. They didn't test the environment. They tested the water department, which, okay, we understand that's clean, but that baby got sick and she was, I don't remember how many times she went to the hospital over it, and I think she finally just got over it like a couple weeks ago. But our environment's contaminated, you guys, and I just want you guys to be alerted to that. Look online, look on the EPA websites. How's My Waterways is a really good one. It can show you, like, even Perkinsville. The strip from White River to Perkinsville on the EPA ECHO website says it's contaminated. So why are we spending $4 million in the Parks Department from the ARPA funds for a boat ramp that's downrange from the other Anderson wastewater transplant or plant that changed its name from the Anderson sewage and sludge plant that is also on the Superfund site list? So that's kind of weird, and they're non-compliant. But we're wanting to build outdoor recreation in an area that, you know, I wouldn't be wanting to bring visitors and tourists to that location if we got an issue with wastewater and poop getting put into the river. So with that, I'm done, but I think the public needs to be advised, or they need to know that if you're going out on the White River, Pipe Creek, any of our water in Madison County is contaminated. The EPA website can back me up on that, so I'm not just fear mongering. And that's what I got. Thank you, guys.
Cheryl, so let me understand. You guys wanted $15,000. It wasn't in the budget. The sheriff has to continually fight to get things like vests and uniforms and pay. And you make him come up month after month and beg for money to keep me and my family and all of my neighbors safe. That just doesn't make sense to me. You sit here and you give the commissioner hundreds of thousands of dollars this year, but yet safety doesn't seem to be at the top of the list. The people elected the sheriff because we feel like he can do a great job. You guys need to let him do that job.
I just wanted to address
address the bell tower issue, if you don't mind. It was mentioned that the
Nobody
clock
cares.
was wrong and variety of statements, but that equipment was shipped in earlier this year, May, June, somewhere in that neighborhood. And when it got to us, it was damaged, so it was returned. And then Bird and the installer had some scheduling issues, so they're shipping that and reshipping the equipment, and that's due to be installed about mid-October. So just an update on why that's not repaired yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Will you speak up?
We can't hear you. So at the beginning of the meeting, we had the public hearing. Do we have to open a public hearing and close it for each, the Madison County budget, Independence Fire, and East Central Solid Waste? Or can we just open a public hearing for all three and then close it? Okay, so we did that properly. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? We'll move on to the budget discussion. What's that?
If you'd give me just a few minutes to redirect. Kara, could you turn on the TV? Under the 2025 presentations, could you pull up the public safety and general fund budgets over time? At the very bottom of that sheet.
I'm not sure where the taxpayers pay for a TV
Dr.
they
Green,
can't see.
You had
I have
asked
no
us
idea.
for a question we probably need a little more time to process regarding employees and departments over time. But one thing I did here is I wanted to give you a look at the difference in dollars between the 2021 budget and the proposed 2026 budget. And what I've done is I've sorted them by the amount of money that's changed hands or changed in those departments from 2020 to 2026, okay? So if you look at the top line, that's the commissioners, but again, if you have any sense at all, you're gonna realize that most of this is FICA and PERF, okay? And when you look below this line, you're gonna see where that comes from. You can see that the difference in the jail budget from 20 to 26 has increased $1.8 million. The prosecutor has increased $944,000. The public defender's office has increased $850,000. The Madison County Correctional Complex has increased $768,000. The sheriff has increased $741,000. The coroner has increased $377,000, and on goes down the list. But if you think about your public safety here in the county, those are all those top numbers. To insinuate that the council doesn't care about public safety it's just a falsehood and a misunderstanding of the public. They don't understand where the money's going. You can see the vast majority of the money goes to support public safety in our county. If you scroll down that list, Kara, you know, you're going to get down to basically when you're looking at under $100,000, take that probation services down to the very bottom line, if you would, Kara, if you can, or get close to it, so I can see a little higher. But most of these are the other way, please. So you can see the reductions in some of the budgets. You've had people like the clerk. She's reduced her budget. The clerk 4D reduced her budget. There's a lot of people that have reduced budgets here. And the vast majority of those between voters registration and up to roughly $100,000 are probably our raises that have happened between 20 and 26. So I want to be able to go ahead and scroll back to the top, Karen.
this is the reality of how budgets change. This isn't hyperbole or somebody speaking that you don't take care of public safety. The vast majority of your funds go to public safety every year. So I did want to kind of redirect on that. Sometimes there's simply some misinformation that the public doesn't understand how much money you dedicate to that.
That's stupid.
Again, before you start your budget process, I want to remind you, you've got less revenue than you had for last year's budget. So keep that in mind. You don't have money to fund raises in the general fund. You don't have money to fund the merit board contract in the general fund. You simply don't have the money. Unless you were to actually go in and decrease the amount of employees, you're not going to find that money. But how you do that when, as you can see, if you just look at everything under 200,000, let's say, you know, these people aren't asking for money year over year. They're operating under the same budgets, and they're being increased by whatever cost of living allowance you may give. So I just kind of wanted to redirect so you can see what that money's spent on and where it's been spent on over the years.
Could you speak to the typical increases that the county council has received from the state, the revenues?
Over time,
over the last 8-10 years.
over time, I started here in 2017, but we could realistically count on $1 million to $1.5 million every year of increased revenue. This is the first year in the 9 years that I've been through a budget season that we're actually looking at less revenues, you know, and it's a conglomeration of revenue sources that are changing. It has a lot to do with the state. It has what the state's doing with the sheriff ed program, and it has a little slower growth in lip rates. I think we're going to experience less property tax because of the Senate Enrolled Act 1. There's all kinds of factors that are coming together this year that create a horrible storm for the council. That perfect horrible storm.
So I just want to, I guess I want to be clear about sort of a starting place. So for 2026, where we're normally looking at an addition of 3 to 4%, which is $1.5 million.
Yes.
We're looking at 500,000 less.
Right.
So we have a $2 million swing from what every other year we have generally been expected in terms of income. Do you have a sense of how much of that is impacted by the state?
I feel like the state, I can be really critical of the state. I understand fundamentally that they want property tax relief. But the thing that I don't like about the state is every action they have affects local government, but doesn't affect state government. They're not decreasing their own revenues to save taxpayer money. They're decreasing revenues that affect local government. They affect things like the sheriff department. You're not going to be able to give the raises that they deserve, okay? But the state's not going to have that same issue because they're not lowering their tax base. They're lowering the local tax base. The same thing if you think about the sheriff bed program. They're looking at reducing that. The state still hasn't paid us from last June. You know, June was the last time we got paid. I bet the state owes us nearly $750,000 for the last year in sheriff bed fees. They still haven't paid us. And from what we've heard from Kim Owens, that they're lowering the amount they're going to pay us per year type of money, which is, I think she estimated $364,000 when typically that revenue's been $500,000-600,000 a year for housing their own prisoners. The sheriff houses state prisoners, and they're telling us they're reducing that, and they haven't paid us for a year. So I get a little disgusted at times with the state legislature because the impact, they get the attaboy, say, oh yeah, we lowered your taxes, but they didn't lower their income, they lowered your income, they put you in this spot.
So I'm hearing
No,
you say that.
the commissioners put us on
$2
the
million
spot.
Right.
difference for 2022. There's another 750,000 or so the state owes us.
That they still owe us, you know?
So you approved that in August,
Yes, and they still haven't paid. There was rumors that they'd pay in July. July came and went. There was rumors that they'd pay in August. August came and went. We're still waiting, yeah.
In addition, in 2026, there's a 27th pay.
In addition, there's a 27th
Could you
pay.
speak to how much it's going to cost just for that 27th pay for our employees at present?
We budgeted $1 million in the rainy day fund in the 27th pay. If you had to absorb that in the general fund, it would be even worse than what you're facing already. I think you're basically at a crisis point right now. But if you didn't have your reserves to be able to afford that 27th pay, it comes into the tune of $1 million. We've also budgeted $50,000 in the county public safety fund for the probation officers' 27th pay. And then the health fund is budgeted 27th pay in their fund to pay for those. But yeah, it's so many factors.
So there's $2 million from the state reduction. Anticipated for next year. $1 million in the 27th pay.
Yes.
It's going to increase in expense. And how much are we going to be spending, do you believe, out of the rainy day fund for the capital case?
I think you'll spend roughly $1 million this coming in 2026. We have budgeted a little more than that, but I think you'll be right at $1 million. Originally, the total was $1 million, but we've already spent some out of the rainy day fund this year, and I anticipate we'll spend another $1 million based on the cost estimates I've heard from the sheriff for sequestering juries for that significant period of time. I think the costs are going to be huge, and then you'll have the prosecutor, and you also have the courts having to pay 24 hours a day to be with the jury as well. So
The state owes us $750,000, and we're down $4 million.
yes,
Before we start.
before you start.
Before we start the contract.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's important to understand for the public,
No.
boy, do I appreciate the support for our sheriff's department.
Will you speak into your mic?
Oh, sorry. Really appreciate public coming out and speaking in support of our sheriff's department. I think the idea that Mr. Culp said that there isn't a support here for public safety. Look at where the dollars go. And
To the commissioners.
the commissioners and the collective bargaining group from the merit officers, I fully believe in good faith, negotiated the contract. They operated under a premise that this is the way it's been done for a long, long time, and this is the way we're going to do it this year. I think the challenge is they couldn't have known. I don't, there's sort of, from the standpoint of, boy, they're just looking to really hose this budget for this year. And nobody believes that. They didn't have any idea that most of these that we would be down just shy of $5 million as we approach 2026. And, I think the dynamic of their different philosophies of rainy day fund use. But the premise behind rainy day fund is for catastrophic one-time kinds of experiences like the capital case or situations that arise. I think it doesn't take much of an accounting degree to figure out if we pay out of the rainy day fund for salaries, that it'll just simply be gone within a relatively few years, and now we won't have the rainy day fund or the money to fund salary. I did ask Mr. Clutter to speak to the, one of the questions was that we kind of raised previously is the contract sent to us from the discussion of the merit officers and the commissioners was a contract agreed upon by those two entities, but had all of our names on it as signatories. None of us were in any of those meetings that I'm aware of. And yet, Mr. Clutter, if you could speak to the role of the county council as it relates to pay and salary for all the county employees, including mayors. Yeah, that'd be great.
I think you encapsulated that quite well, but I think you all are also aware that state law is quite clear that the county council is the exclusive decision when it comes to salaries.
Yes.
They are for the county assessor's employees or mayor deputies. You exclusively are in charge of setting what those salaries are. As Mr. Holt well knows, I'm sure people in this room know the statute is quite clear on that. That's not to say that the sheriff's request and the request of the commissioners shouldn't be given a great deal of deference. But as you noted, it is impossible to guess, especially months ago when they were going through these negotiations, what effect that the legislation would have had. And some counties, other municipalities, very little effect. Some are actually up a little bit, surprisingly enough, for a variety of reasons, which I am not qualified to speak on. Yours has not been that positive. And so with that in mind, you guys have to make the tough decisions there.
Thank you.
Todd, I don't know if you could speak on this or not, but what is happening at the state is affecting local levels, correct? Like at the county level, at the municipality level?
Yes.
How is Anderson doing this? They are giving an 8% increase for employees.
I
And
could
then
have addressed this last month, but the city is a fundamentally different government entity in that they have an executive, being the mayor, that controls all the budgets. So in order for, here, we have 45 departments, and a good number of those are elected officials. They have direct access to come to the county council and ask for what they want. It doesn't work like that in the city. The city, the mayor is the executive, and he hires the police chief, he hires the fire chief, and then they funnel all the requests through them. They do all the negotiation of their own contracts and with those public safety unions through the mayor. The council never gets that one-on-one pressure because the mayor's working on that behind the scene. One thing that Mayor Broderick's done rather well is he doesn't spend all the money that he has every year. So he stockpiles money, and then he's able to take care of his employees every year. If you look back at like the cost of living allowances at the city of Anderson, they're very, very steady. But that's because he's a center point of controlling the money. Whereas you have a body of 7 that's bombarded by 45 different departments wanting their needs. The city council never sees that. They have one budget that's proposed by the mayor that controls the spending in all the departments. So that's how it's fundamentally different. He puts the brakes on a lot earlier and takes reserves back. And I know for a fact that Mayor Broderick's been concerned about the same things we're concerned about. That Senator Rolled Act 1, he's been very concerned about what that's going to do to the income of the city. So he's intentionally not spending money and stockpiling money so that when they travel through this, they'll have plenty of money to do the things they need to do. But that's why it's fundamentally different, because you have one person presenting their budget to the council, not 45 departments coming to the council telling you what they need.
You also have 3 utilities, water, sewer, and electric, that they could be lucrative businesses. I mean, they are a not-for-profit business, but they fund and are not subject to property taxes, you can contribute back into the general fund.
And Todd, didn't you also mention that, I was thinking in the last month, you gave a great example of if an employee left or retired, that sometimes the mayor chooses not to fill the position.
Yes, that's a great example, especially on the police department. I think they have something like 111 officers budgeted, and he never fills all those positions. He leaves those positions unfilled, and when he does that, it accumulates money in that budget so that he can plan going forward.
So the problem is before us. Question is, what's the solution?
I have a solution.
Well, I've worked on it. Whether we like what my solution is to be heard. We're about $2 million over budget right now. I know that Todd made a comment that, you know, we need to worry about the budget now. I mean, we're talking about maybe doing some transition with some lit. That is gonna take time to get through the different boards, and it's not gonna be passed before we have to pass a budget. So it might be something to give us relief next year, but it's not a guarantee, and it's not something that we can bank on for this budget for next year. We need to anticipate that we aren't gonna get it. It's not gonna happen. And at the end of the day, we have to fund what we have. And yes, I do think that this council needs to look at doing a hiring freeze going forward for the next couple of years.
Agreed.
Because we don't know what's gonna happen. And it's gonna need to be looked at by case. You know, I understand some departments might have 1 or 2 people working in them, so obviously you can't say, well, you can't fill that position, but some of our larger departments are gonna have to look at cutting back. I prefer to say that it'd be great if the department heads looked at their workforce and determined themselves, because they know their budgets, they know their people, they know what needs to be done in those departments, of where they can consolidate workforce and where they can cut back costs of employees, because at the end of the day, the majority of our budget is employees. It's benefits, it's salaries, and unless we cut those, and I don't think you want the council to make a determination of who's gonna lose employees. It'd be best for the departments to do that for themselves. Going forward for the next 2 years. I ran some figures. I just want to get my stuff in order here. I've got quite a bit. So I know it was said that, you know, we don't need to hire that company, and I'm fine with not hiring the company. I do think it would be very beneficial to us, but I did run some numbers, and as I said, I am not an accountant. But basically what I did look at is, let me look at the right place here. I haven't looked at this in a week because I was on vacation, so. So right now, our current revenue, including property tax and lit shares, is, and this is the number that Todd gave us, was $44,458,196.80 to be exact. Our public safety generates $6,958,052, and our jail lit currently is $7,256,436. For a total of $58,672,684.8 in revenue. Now the estimated lit for 28, the maximum that we can do is 1.2%. And our lit correction is from, if you look at the numbers from our lit correction, this is money that's brought in from the entire county, It goes directly just to the county council, or to the county, not to any of the other municipalities, currently set at 0.2. If you take that amount, which currently, this year is gonna generate $7,256,436, you multiply it by 6. 6 because 0.2 goes into 1.26 times. This will give us an estimate at today's picture of the revenue. So with that being said, that would give us $43,538,616 in lit revenue. On top of that, we have some miscellaneous revenues. I had to take out I took out the property tax completely, and I took out the current lit that's in our estimations. And that gave us an additional $8,076,750, which gives us a grand total of $51,615,366. Mind you, I said that our spending right now is at 58 plus million. That's going to generate 51.6. That's short. Then I estimated if maybe we got half the property taxes, because we don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with property taxes. So I take that 51 million that I just told you, and I estimate in half of our property taxes from what Todd's given us our totals today. That's an additional 11. I'm going to just round. I'm not going to give you the numbers. $11.5 million additional, which puts us at just a little over 63 million, which is much better because we needed 58.6. Now we got 63.1. So no property tax. We're going to be short over almost $7 million. If we get property tax, we're going to be over approximately $4 million additional revenue, 4.4. These are unknowns. I don't know them. These are just my guesstimations, and like I said, I'm going to tell you again, I'm not an accountant. But these are things that we have to consider going forward, because we cannot get this council to a position where we have a budget that we can't fund. At the end of the day, and people want to say, you got this great big rainy day fund, you can't use rainy day to pay salaries. I can do a one-time payment out of the rainy day for salaries, because it's a one-time payment, but I cannot put it in my general fund, increase my general fund, and be required to have to make that the next year, and the next year, and the next year. It doesn't work, people. It just doesn't work. I don't like it. I wish it was different, but that's just the reality of what's set before us. And yeah, I didn't make the decisions at the state. The state made those decisions for us. And all the and we have a jail that we have to fund. And people might disagree that we maybe don't need the jail, or we do need the jail. It's not really, at the end of the day, we got to have a jail, and the jail we got right now, and if you haven't visited it, I encourage you to go visit it, because I have been through the jail, and it is sad, people. It is sad. Not only that, but we're housing people out of county, which is costing us county money. We're housing people for DOC, which they're not paying, which if they would have just at least take the people that are supposed to be in DOC, we probably wouldn't have to have the out-of-housing costs that were also being incurred. So the state is costing us money at the end of the day. I can't control the state. I can only control what's in front of me. So when we left off at our budget last month, I think it was, we were approximately $4 million over budget. And that was with absolutely no raises. The only thing that it did put in there is the, what'd I say? Sorry, 2. It just multiplied really fast. Yeah, so we're approximately $2 million over budget. So, what my thought was, going forward, was this. We currently have a reserve insurance fund. There's not a lot in there, but we've got almost $3 million in there. My initial thought was, let's take $1 million from the commissioner's budget for the insurance and reduce it by $1 million.
That is going from 5.3 to 4.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. And then, we currently have in the rainy day fund, we've got a requested budget of $2.5 million. That's covering the capital case. That's covering our 26th pay, 27th pay. I believe that's all that's budgeted in there right now. My request is, I went through the current budget that we did. I left, for the merit contract, I left the benefits in there. I
that
took
was nice.
the pay lines back down to the increase with their longevity. Tim had graciously given that number to us. That was allowed us to be able to reduce the budget. I'm currently, I believe that is the only changes I made. So, well, the only other one I did was I did up the postage in the treasurer's office. That was minor. We are still approximately just under $500,000 over budget. Before I address that particular aspect of it, what I want to do is for the merit officers is a one-time payout at 11% out of the rainy day fund, approximately $180,000, just a little over $180,000. I also want to give the regular employees a one-time 3% out of there, which is another $620,000. That would bring our rainy day fund up to an appropriate amount of $3.3 million, a little bit over that. It doesn't commit us to anything in the future except for the benefit package for the merits. And hopefully going forward, we'll see what next year brings when it comes to next budget. There's some things that are coming down the pipeline I can't control. Mandatory raises that I have to give based upon what the state throws at us. Those are things that we are going to have to consider. So now back to the $4.5 million that we're over budget. And I know Todd's not going to like what I'm going to say, but I say that we go from 80% to 82%. That'll cover the difference of that.
Of the 460,000.
Yes, that will cover the difference of that 460,000, giving us a balanced budget. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you for put it out there. You guys had a chance to hear what Councilor Miller has said. What thoughts about that?
Well, and I should say that the $1 million I'm reducing from the commissioner's budget, they will be able to draw from that insurance reserve fund. It's not going to be something that I'm going to have to reappropriate money for next year to be able to cover it.
I'll get it back. I'll get it back.
Cope, you see, are there any issues with that?
You just want to keep in mind, this is very plausible to do, but you do want to keep in mind that as the insurance reserve fund goes down, it could make premiums for employees go up. The insurance reserve fund is, they look at it as how much reserves the county has when they're determining rates for the employees. So you may, I don't want you to do it and not anticipate that there may be an increase in health insurance rates to the employees by reducing
Do you
those.
know if there's a threshold there? Are you aware of it?
Threshold.
Like there's a,
I don't think any of our commissioners are left, but they would have a better handle on that.
something worth checking into to see if it's a 1.5 million or 2 million or whatever that threshold number is.
Yeah. One
Defeat
thing,
the purpose of giving an increase and then raising premiums 4%.
right.
Well, and there's no guarantee of how much they're going to have to pull from that reserve either.
With the proposed change in the taxing structure, that still has to go through all the tax council, is that what it's called?
Yes,
Okay.
the tax
Just trying-
council.
How soon would we find out, like how,
Sure. You would want,
I'd like to just introduce them to
okay.
the public that are here, so that like this is a little complicated. If you'll kind of hang with it, I think it will set at least a foundation for a discussion about the lit. And I'm just going to read this because I think it makes maybe more sense. So one option is to take the local income tax. In Madison County, it's 2.25%. 1% of that 2.25 goes into the general fund. 0.55 is dedicated to the public safety fund. 0.2 is dedicated to the correction lit for the county. And 0.5 is dedicated to property tax relief. And the sum of the general fund, public safety fund, correction lit, and property tax relief is that 2.25. So the local income tax is 2.25%. That's the total money that comes in.
But how
Some
much?
years ago, my understanding is that
How much is in every area?
that those proportions are just set. And once they're set, they stay in place until somebody changes them. And there are thresholds to change them. If you change them by November 1st or October 31st, they then take effect in January of that following year. In the state of Indiana, there are 92 counties. Well, I'm just going to finish through this. The property tax relief will be eliminated on a county level by the SEA 1, the new law, effective December 31st, 2027. So for the next 2 years, this property tax relief piece will be in place. Starting in 2028, it will be gone. So it's a 2-year thing. There will be a different property tax relief element that counties can adopt down the road, but the most it could be would be 0.3%, which is 0.2% lower than our current rate. You remember that property tax relief is 0.5% of that 2.25. 34 counties don't have any property tax relief. 34 of the 92 counties don't have any that are offered for tax relief. And of the others that do, which would be 50-some, Madison County, only 5 counties have a higher property tax relief than Madison County. So the council and the tax council for the whole county, which are groups of cities and towns and municipalities, all set that rate because they believe that property tax relief would be important. Well, the state took a little while to catch up, but they just decided this year property tax relief is important. And so that's the situation. If we take the 0.5% and we cut that in half, so instead of 0.5, it went 0.25. And we took that 0.25 and we put it into public safety. That has the potential to provide additional funds in the neighborhood of about $3 million. That's a very general estimate. And the folks who would benefit from that would be the county and other municipalities. The town of Elwood, the town of Pendleton, the town of, etc.
Excuse me, is the extra $3 million, would that be for the county, like our share? Or would that be
So the $3 million is our share. It would be the county share of that. So it would actually move $9 million into the public safety fund collectively, but the county share would be $3 million.
Well, and it could go into public safety, or it could go.
Or it could go to any
into the
other fund,
It could go into the.
any other
certified
piece.
shares.
It could certain names in the general fund, whatever. If the property tax relief were eliminated entirely, if we took that 0.5%, just put it to 0, as 34 other counties do, that generates an additional $6 million in funds for the counties, for the county, for one of the other funds.
For 2 years. For 2 years.
For 2 years. This is a 2-year deal, because in January 1st of 2028, there's a different set of rules. So we just have to kind of keep in mind. So what would be required? In this setting, the taxes, the local income tax doesn't change at all. So the tax is going up. It's just being redistributed. What we don't know, and I think a natural question would be, well, if property tax relief is given by the state in this new law, and property tax relief was given by this lit, and some of that is then withdrawn, would people pay more in property tax? Or would there be less relief? You look at your property tax, if you own a home, there's a certain deduction that comes from that portion. That makes sense. Those of you who kind of read in your tax, you've seen it. So what this would, I'm throwing on the table the sort of in addition to what Councilor Norick suggested, that I think this represents a plausible option. The town of Elwood and Pendleton, in processing this, have decided to pay the Reedy Group, who we were talking about earlier, who's this financial analysis group, $5,000 for a very specific assessment of what the implication for property owners would be. It would require us to have a special called meeting to deliberate about this and have a vote. That's not something we could do tonight because it wasn't announced. The soonest we could act on that would be 2 weeks from this week.
And we're also trying to figure out whether or not, with the property tax caps, you can't pay more than 1% of your assessed value on your property. I truly believe that if the property tax credit that we have to the lit, if part of that was to disappear, we're only talking half of it right now. We don't need all of it. We'd like to take half of it. I believe that the property tax cap will go up on the tax bills, but I don't have that information yet. But I can tell you that on $100,000 of income, you're paying approximately $500 in property tax. I can tell you that on my tax statement, I don't get $500 back. I get $275. So I'm paying more in property, I'm paying more in lit on that particular item than what I'm receiving in a credit. And so the maximum that I would see a difference is whatever half of 275 is, $135 possible increase in my property taxes if my property tax cap does not increase to compensate for the difference.
The reality is that we're working to mitigate the impact of the decisions. When I was describing this set of circumstances of $4 million that's gone for next year, relatively speaking, none of that was in our control. I'm like, well, we didn't have anything to do with any of that. So we're trying to figure out ways to manage our expenses and also trying to facilitate revenue. What it would require is for us, or at least 4 of us, to decide we think that's a good idea. But it would also require the majority of all the other taxing units to make this decision before October 31st. Back to Jody's original point, I believe there's a reasonable possibility that these other units in a majority form would be willing to go along with it. But until a vote occurs, we don't know. And I don't think we can know the outcome of that. All we can do is our part. But we can't know the outcome of that before we set this budget. So I believe, I'm speaking in support of Vice President Norick's proposal, in addition to pursuing this with a meeting in the next couple of weeks, where we have the time, 10-day notice period to address this issue, which has the potential to mitigate the loss and put us in a place where we're paying to the issue of the merit officers, many of whom are still here, and bless your hearts for hanging out this long. we kind of processed a couple of different things, but 11% plus all of the benefits for this next year. That's not what they're asking for. They're asking for a 3-year guarantee. I don't see how that's feasible. Without just simply paying it out of the rainy day, and within a few years it'll be gone. And you know, we just don't know what the maybe next year or the next year there will be a significant boom or increase to our income. But there's no way we can know that. No one would have anticipated what happened this year. No one, literally, when the commissioners and the collective bargaining unit were engaging in dialogue, they had no idea we'd be down $4 million next year. If they had, maybe that would impact the discussion. I don't know. But this is where we are, and the facts have to rule the day. We have to, and we're required. The Department of Local Government Finance, from my understanding, won't allow us to set a budget that doesn't work. Like, the state just won't allow it. So, we have to present a budget that works.
Who does it have to work for?
Well, I guess what I would like to know is if we are able to get this passed through the tax council, and I don't know, maybe Detective Brizendine could speak on this some, but could we, since we know we'll have the funds, if this goes through, we'll have the funds to fund the 21% increase that first year. If we don't have that figured out by the time the budget is put in, is that something we could address later to give the increase? I just feel with Anderson raising their rate so much, I feel like we would be competitive. And I think doing
Exactly
21% that first year goes a long way to keeping the officers that we want to keep with the experience that they have. And so we would have the funds to do that if this goes through. So I know we can't write a check based on something that might not go through, but I don't know. That's something we have to
funds
consider.
to do a one-time payment, because at the end of 27, that money is gone. Gone.
That's the.
So that is, I don't feel comfortable. I'm sorry, it's not about whether I support anybody at the end of the day.
No, it is.
I want to support everybody. I've got 200 plus employees, including my merit officers, and they didn't get a raise last year at all. Nothing. And the merit officers did get a 3% last year underneath their own contract. I do not feel confident in saying, yes, I'm gonna sign a contract and I'm gonna fund this, because then what happens at the end of 27 and I'm doing a 28 budget? Sorry guys, we have to do a pay cut. I don't wanna give you a pay cut. I don't wanna have to do that. But I do feel confident and I do feel comfortable saying, I will take some money out of the rainy day fund, because I've heard a lot of complaining about our rainy day fund. And yeah, I get it, but I would be willing to say, yes, let's do that increase out of the rainy day fund. The rainy day fund will generate more in revenue next year to be able to do, hopefully, another 11% payout, a one-time payout, to be able to do that. But to say that I'm gonna increase your salary by 11%, I can't do that. I personally can't do that, because I can't fund it with the revenues that's happening.
Yes, you can.
And the rainy day fund is not a revenue source, it's a savings account. And so to pay one-time things out of it, I'm okay with that, I'm comfortable with that. I'm not okay with funding salaries, because at some point in time, it's gone.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Sure. We're open to suggestions.
Would you mind?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna offer this suggestion without knowing the answer, but I will run it out. So, understanding that property tax relief goes away in 2027, the way the ordinance and resolutions read for lit is you can transfer that, I believe, that 0.25 from property tax relief over into certified shares or public safety. And so I think once you've done that in 2027, the only part that would go away is the existing 0.25, I think. Which would mean that would stay there past 2027.
So the way,
It would be a permanent part of your lit going forward.
I'd like to know that, 'cause the way I understand it, and I could very well be wrong, but I understand it that come 27, the maximum we can pass for 28 is 1.2% of the lit. And
For
that's
certified shares.
for certified shares.
Correct.
Because the public safety tax goes away, the jail lit goes away, all that goes away.
No, public safety and jail lit don't go away. Jail lit can't go away because everybody's got bonds that are being.
You don't think that, you don't think, I don't mean go away, I mean that it's incorporated into that 1.2%. Am I incorrect on
I
that?
don't believe that's the case.
Well, if you can tell me, something different, then that forecast is a lot better than what I'm looking at.
Yeah, so I've been communicating with your LGF representative, and I haven't asked her that specific question, but I will tomorrow.
So she can look at what we have currently as far as our percentages.
Yes.
If she can say, you'll get to keep this on top of that 1.2%,
Yes.
I would be extremely happy.
Yes. So let me make those inquiries.
That has huge implications.
It does, and certainly long-term, well past 2027.
Yes, and that's where the Reedy Group really, I know, some people want to complain about the 15,000 I want to take out of the rainy day fund, but you know what? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And if I've read it, it's this thick, people, and I am not a lawyer, and I'm not an accountant, and I don't understand everything, the implications it has for our county.
I'm just saying move it to January.
It may give us, right now, the general fund, the certified shares with here. So I think it would be helpful, actually, if you can check into that.
I will.
I think the other dynamic of just looking at the potential implications of various percentages. Do we put 0.2 into that, or, you know, into public safety, or how we
How you break that up.
orchestrate that? And
That's kind of in the
the Reedy Group
details.
can help us with the impact on property taxes.
Yes.
Because if that lit remains for the jail, that's $7.2 million that you're telling me is on top of that 1.2. But that is not how I understood it. That's not how Chrissy understood it either, so.
I don't think we're gonna do anything to mess with the
Well,
jail. That would
I
send
can't remember
markets
when
into a spiral.
AIC training. I thought somebody asked that, but I can't remember what the answer was.
But let me see what I can find out.
What this does then is give credence to the idea of having a meeting in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Where we have time to do our homework, get our expert opinion, and come back with a little bit more knowledge. I think we still have to reconcile the fact that even if we vote to do that doesn't mean it's done, because we were dependent on several other entities.
And I'm not opposed to revisiting some things after the first of the year if things change.
If we have a completely different, if we have $3 or $4 million we didn't plan on, that changes the calculation.
And the other thing too, even if you don't, are able to get all of the county income tax council to sign off on raising the rate by October 31st. Adopted between October 31st and December 31st, it kicks in August 1st.
It's August 1st.
Yeah, so
So it'd be an eight-month lag.
Yeah, 7-month lag, but still, I mean, you're gonna have some funding, you know it's coming.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure it's clear. We're not looking at raising the rate.
No.
We are not looking at raising the rate because I refuse to increase property taxes. I refuse to increase local income tax. I mean, that's why I'm not in favor of the PSAP. It's just a redistribution of what's already being taken out.
Right.
Another consideration, literally, we've had this discussion this evening, and we haven't even talked about the new jail. For those of you who don't know, like in the budget numbers that we've crunched, this is not considered in this budget is not the potential costs of the transition to a much larger jail, where we're going to need more staff, there's going to be more food, there's going to be a dynamic there, and we've reconciled, we've had multiple conversations with the sheriff. about this transition cost. That's going to be, that's again, it's one of those rainy day fund items that it's a one-time deal. We know it's going to be substantial. You know, that's what a rainy day is used for. Is we're going to have these costs. We have to be able to have access to resources if we're going to be wise. So.
We've had multiple discussions with all people, all players, the judges, the prosecutor, the sheriff, the commissioners, MCCC, who am I missing? I don't know. About, you know, what our criminal justice system looks like and how it can be better efficient in the way we're doing things and spend less money. We've had multiple conversations. We have a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, it continues on. I mean, we are working to try to figure out how to make this as best and efficient as it can be. It requires, I mean, it's challenging.